Hi, everyone, and welcome back for episode 48 of the Simply Wellness podcast. I'm your host, Colin, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris.
How we doing, everybody?
We're just a couple of best friends who are passionate about all things pop culture. If you're looking for lukewarm takes on movies, video games, TV shows, or even the occasional comic, then we have the show for you.
That's fucking right.
Yeah.
That's like...
I know it's accurate.
Yeah.
I'm like...
You want to come? You came to the right place.
Nope. This week we're actually doing comic books.
Yeah.
Again, like we're doing comic book club.
I was very excited.
Whoa.
A little tippy tap, getting ahead of
your little
myself.
feet clicking.
Got my heels,
You're swinging your feet like they're not touching the ground.
Bro's got you smiling like that. It's me reading my comics.
Anyways. We're each going to give the other one our thoughts and recommendations on a comic that we read this week.
Yeah.
We decided that in lieu of like a specific hero or like publishing house, we were just going to do indie comics as our prompt basically this week.
Mm-hmm. Something not Marvel or Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like big brand.
Yeah, in fact, we've never read a DC comic.
Not on the podcast.
But I chose to read Sex Criminals
Yes.
by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky, and you decided on...
It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Final Ronin.
Oh, I thought you were going to do a Hellboy.
I was, but I was sitting there thinking at work, and I was like, well, I was looking at Hellboy comics, and I was like, yeah, that one looks really interesting, and I think I'm still going to go back and read a couple Hellboy comics. But then I did stumble upon the Last Ronin. I think it's the Final Ronin. And so I was like, it's destiny.
It's fate.
Yeah.
And who's this one written by?
Ooh, shit. I had everything pulled up on my phone because I had to fucking read like a jerk off. Kevin Eastman.
Kevin Eastman?
Yeah.
And?
2022. It says that was it. Or well, maybe illustration done by.
Right, yeah.
Oh, no. Art by Kevin Eastman.
My God,
He's a fucking, yeah. No, so don't fucking tell me I'm wrong.
I didn't say you were wrong. I was just going, and? Is that it?
No, but I'm very excited to talk about it, so.
Good. So, well, before we do get to talk about our books,
yes,
we have to talk about the passing of Annie Wershing, The Last of Us Season 2.
Yes.
The Tomb Raider universe.
Yeah.
So we got some updates on Justin Roiland.
Yes.
As well as our Oscar nominees. And some news about the day before.
I don't like when you hit me with this news. Like, I'm not a fan.
Well, so if you're ready, we'll just jump into it.
Okay.
So, like I said, starting off the top here, we do have to talk about Annie Wershing. She was known for TV roles in 24 and Bosch, as well as for portraying the character of Tess in the Last of Us video game. She passed away this past Sunday after a battle with cancer, and her husband, Stephen Full, said in a statement, "There is a cavernous hole in our soul, in the soul of this family today, but she left us the tools to fill it. She found wonder in the simplest moment. She didn't require music to dance. She taught us not to wait for the adventure to find you. She said, go find it. It's everywhere, and find it we shall." And that's a nice way to remember her. She was 45, and there is apparently a GoFundMe to kind of help her family and things like that.
Oh, sure.
So if that's something that somebody's interested in, I'm sure if you just Google, Annie Wershing GoFundMe, you'll be able to find that. Obviously, a lot of the people that she's worked with in TV and gaming have all kind of come out and paid their respects and kind of drawn attention to that GoFundMe. So I'm sure and hopeful that her family will be at least financially okay in her absence. The Last of Us on HBO has officially been greenlit for a second season after its premiere episode passed 22 million views.
Damn.
Or watches, viewers,
Sure,
I don't know how you, this past week. Obviously, that number is still climbing, but that's just because it passed the 22 million and got greenlit before episode 3 aired on Sunday. So
I have not seen episode 3 yet.
It's the best episode so far.
That's what you've been telling me. Because you are the only source of news that, like, when you're like, have you seen it yet? And I was like, no. And you're like, have you seen anything about it? And I was like, no, thankfully.
Yeah, that's good, because everything on my...
But then again, it did come out yesterday, and I went to work, so I haven't really been on my phone. And when I have, like, on my lunch, I was reading the comic.
Watch it before you run our Twitter.
No, I'm going to be watching it tonight.
Yeah, because like Twitter's been just chock full of stuff.
I figured. I saw something on Instagram, like on my way home. I pulled in,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm gonna check Instagram real quick, and it was like The Last of Us, and I just
Close that.
Close. And I was like, all right, that's bad enough of that.
But let's see here. So, executive producer of the series and the developer of the game, Neil Druckmann, said, "I'm humbled, honored, and frankly overwhelmed that so many people have tuned in and connected with our retelling of Joel and Ellie's journey. The collaboration with Craig Mazin, our incredible cast and crew, and HBO exceeded my already high expectations. Now we have the absolute pleasure of being able to do it again with season 2. So both Neil and Craig have kind of at least hinted at or suggested that the second season is just going to jump directly into the second game.
Which makes sense to me.
They're not going to do any...
I think that's completely okay having it just as a 2-season thing, just the first and second.
So on that note, they've also kind of talked about, at least Craig Mazin, I don't know that Neil's addressed it, but Craig Mazin is kind of under the impression that The Last of Us Part 2 would probably be a 2-season story. Only because, I mean, you figure...
There is a lot.
It's like it's about a 20-hour game, and the first one is like 9 to 10.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, and that's okay.
And I could maybe see how they would break it down. I don't think they would break it down the way it's broken down in the game.
No.
I'm trying to avoid spoilers for people who don't know the game but know the show.
Yeah, I think that'd be funny. Or not funny, but...
It'd be odd.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure they'll find a way to pull it off.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to see who they get to play Abby.
Yeah. Yeah, Abby is a very specific
particular person. It's a particular build. And I mean, anybody can get fit.
I was going to say, yeah, but like, actresses do that all the time for Marvel, so I can't see why.
Yeah, because she is an incredibly built person.
What do we say? Like a yak?
Like an
ox.
Yeah.
Strong like bull.
Like bull. Let's see here. Amazon has recently announced a Tomb Raider series is in production to be penned and sorry, I don't know what I tried to type, but it says penned next produced. I'm assuming maybe penned and executive produced by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who wrote and starred in Fleabag, which is a show that I'm always telling you to watch.
Yes.
Very good. So there's no news about her starring in it or anything like that. She's strictly writing and producing it. Apparently she's personally like a big Tomb Raider fan.
Yeah.
And so she was like, yes, I will.
Dude, I remember when Tomb Raider came out for the Xbox 360.
The like reboot that they did. Yeah. It's really good.
It was really good. And I had the big fat crush on Lara Croft at that point. I was like, oh my God.
Well, when Tomb Raider came out in like 96, the boys had a crush on her then too.
But that's the thing. But then I was like, well, I didn't know anything about Lara Croft. So I started like playing some of the old games too. And I mean, I was fucking with the triangle tits. Like, I'm down with it, baby.
I'm not going to shy away from it.
Don't you think I am?
No, so sources have told.
Like, look at me. Don't think that.
It wasn't, man.
I just get super serious and just fucking listen.
Sources have told The Hollywood Reporter that Amazon actually has bigger plans for Lara Croft that include an interconnected web of media that would include a feature-length film, video games, and the aforementioned series, all taking place in the same like universe, I suppose, where this show that Phoebe Waller-Bridge is making would tie directly into the movie that they make, which will also be in the same continuity as the games that they're making. So that'd be interesting to see them take a swing at it.
Yeah, we haven't had something like that.
Include the video game.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess Star Wars.
Yeah,
because Jedi Fallen Order is the only game so far that is canonical. Canon. I think.
Yeah.
Maybe. No, I guess that would be it. Well, no, Battlefront 2 has a campaign.
Yeah.
But either way, so recent Star Wars games have made, like, they are canon. And so, yeah, you've got that kind of thing. But they did compare, like, to Marvel and what they're doing with, like, the TV and the movies.
Sure.
But I do like the idea of somebody else taking a swing at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you could do anything with Tomb Raider. Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to reboot with, like, Lara Croft, Lara Croft or somebody else, I mean, or just pick it up, just a treasure hunt. I mean, you can. I'm cool with that.
I'm flexible. So Justin Roiland,
hard turn pivot.
Yeah, no way around it. Justin Roiland, I didn't want to come to this story out of Annie Wersching's passing. So there was just no. I was like, do I
No.
clump all the serious news? I don't know.
I don't know, man.
But so Justin Roiland, following recent domestic violence charges, has been fired from Solar Opposites and Koala Man, both on Hulu, as well as his involvement with Rick and Morty at Adult Swim being canceled.
Yes.
No word yet on the fate of the 2 prior series at Hulu. However, Adult Swim has announced that it intends to recast the title roles of Rick and Morty.
Yes.
Because they had like a 70-episode order, which they're at 40.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think they have 40 episodes left in that order. So that gets them through a 10th season.
Did we talk about Sean Kelly?
I don't think so.
So Sean Kelly is a guy that Justin Roiland talked about in an interview prior.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that like he does like voice impressions, and he was a fan and he sent one to him.
Mm-hmm.
But he said like it's really good. And so like they kind of like started talking and everything, and they got him in on the studio, or not in the studio, but like together, and like recorded voices and played them back. And Justin Roiland was like, I couldn't tell a difference. So
Well,
everyone's like, get Sean Kelly to do it. And
Yep.
Sean Kelly's been posting a bunch of stuff on like TikTok, doing impressions and stuff, trying to be like, hey, Adult Swim.
Right, yeah. I
So,
mean, maybe.
I mean, hopefully he does that. I mean, because when he does the impressions, he is
Yeah,
spot
he's on it.
So I'm like, I mean, that would be cool.
And apparently Justin Roiland hasn't been involved as a writer very much in Rick and Morty for for most of the series now, where I think his last involvement was like halfway through season 2 I was reading.
Mm-hmm.
So from a writing standpoint, you shouldn't notice his absence,
Mm-hmm.
And so then if you're able to replace the voice
For something that sounds identical.
right now, how much of Rick and Morty comes down to the writing of those characters versus improv of those characters, I'm not sure, because I do understand that he does a lot of improv. That might be
Which
something
would be
that
like a lot of like the wubba lubba dub dubs, or
Right,
like the random noises he makes.
Yeah, so you might miss out on some of that.
Out of everything, I don't know. I scratch my neck. Sue me.
While we're trying to speak, and there's just a...
I got this scarf on me because it's so cold. It's a little itchy.
But Justin Roiland has also resigned from his position at Squanch Games, which recently launched the High on Life.
Yeah.
So he's pretty much out.
Yeah.
Which, if the charges are valid, then yeah, good.
So yeah.
Sorry, bub. Oscar noms, right?
Yes.
We got all of them.
Mm.
I'm not listing all of them. There's a lot of them.
Okay.
But the highlights here, 11 nominations for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
As it should.
Which is, I believe it's the front runner right now as far as like it has the most nominations of a single film right now this year. That includes all your major ones: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, or no, not Best Actor. In a lead role, there was no actor in a lead role. But Ke-Huy Quan was nominated for Best Supporting. And both Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie Hsu were nominated for Best Supporting Actress, which we were kind of talking, personally when that came out. And we were like, man, it's neat that Jamie Lee Curtis got nominated, but I think Stephanie Hsu deserves it more of the two of them. Angela Bassett is the first actor to receive a nomination for an Oscar for their performance in a Marvel film.
Oh.
Yeah. She got nominated for Best Supporting Actress in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Yeah. And she is the first actor in the Marvel Universe to get nominated for their performance in the Marvel Universe.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
There's never been a Marvel performance that was nominated. Typically, a Marvel film gets nominated for the visual effects, costume design, maybe sound design, a lot of your technical effects and things like that.
But not
or like Black Panther got nominated for Best Picture. But no, none of the actors have ever been nominated for their performances other than until Angela Bassett now. So we made it, 15 years almost into the MCU? Yeah, so there was a lot of highlights there. Top Gun Maverick is nominated for Best Picture, and quite a few other nominees.
I ain't gonna lie, I've been fucking bumping on the Top Gun Maverick soundtrack.
Oh yeah, driving to work, just boom. Highway to the danger zone, and you're just swerving in and out of cars.
I'm just fucking hitting the cones. Just fucking bumping the curb.
Yeah, not driving well.
Fucking just turn on Freebird.
Yeah. All right, so this segment is a little bit pre-recorded, only because I needed to catch. We're several days away from recording day, and I wanted you to not know this news when I delivered it to you. Okay.
Oh no.
What do you think it is?
Someone died.
No.
Okay, good.
No, but you might feel that way. So because this is so unpredictable prepared for me. I'm going to try and give credit here. There is a PC Gamer article that was recommended to me that's been written by Andy Chalk, and I'm going to be paraphrasing that article because I've got it up here for reference. So basically, today is the 26th. On the 25th, yesterday, the day before was removed from Steam.
Nuh-uh.
Yes. So the article here says that in a statement released on January 25th, Fantastic said the removal was the result of a trademark claim against the title, which it only found out about on January 19th. And because of the dispute, the planned gameplay reveal, which was going to be about a 10-minute gameplay reveal, was put on hold, and the release date was pushed back from March 1st to November 10th.
Nuh-uh. Because of they won't change their name?
So I don't know. I don't know all the details. So in an interview with IGN, the founders of Fantastic, their names are Edward and Asen Godovstev, I think, said the delay it was actually planned before the trademark dispute came to light. And their quote is, "We plan to move the game's release before and plan to announce it with Mytona, which is their publisher, in a 10-minute gameplay video. And then you all know what happened. So to be on the safe side, to ensure there are no more transfers, we, along with the publisher, and by transfers I think they mean delays, chose November 10th. That is a safe date given the trademark dispute."
I think they just missed the board. I mean, jumping it that far back again?
Right. Well,
I don't think so.
So the article goes on. It says, the Godovstevs also acknowledged accusations from followers that the day before doesn't actually exist or is a scam of some sort, which I've been kind of wondering, saying, "It is unpleasant to hear such accusations. We didn't take a penny from people. No crowdfunding, no pre-orders, no donations." They said, "The game is fully funded by Mytona, one of the largest mobile publishers in the world, who check the game's build at every milestone per our contract. The day before's official Discord has a commonly asked questions section that isn't very good at answering questions, according to volunteers here, right?" So this is a staff writer, Morgan Park, and I think he's a staff writer for PC Gamer. He's pointing out that the day before's official Discord has a commonly asked questions section that isn't very good at answering questions. Basic questions like, will there be quests, and are there other types of vehicles, are all yet to be determined. And this was from when the game was still slated for a March 1st release. Fantastic said on Twitter that it will share the promised day before gameplay footage after it gets the green light from lawyers. That also seems a bit odd to me in the case of a simple trademark dispute, but I'm not a lawyer, and maybe that sort of caution is called for. Regardless, I'm looking forward to seeing it and hoping we get to see it soon. And that's verbatim from the PC Gamer article that I referenced. But so, yet again, another little hiccup on the day before.
Oh my God, tell me this. I took work off.
I know.
For this game. They'll be lucky if I buy it.
So that's an 8-month delay for a game that so far really does not sound close to finished. So
this is what you brought me here for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sat you down special to record this ahead of time because I was like, I got to get ahead of this because it's starting to pick up steam on the social medias, understandably so. Because it's really, like, at this point, I mean, I'm sure there are people that can, like, dig into it and look into, like, the legal records and stuff like that. But a part of me, like tinfoil hat, wonders if this trademark dispute thing is even real, or if they're like, shit, we are not even close to done. We may have, we've already got a lot of people saying some stuff, right?
I feel like it would have been brought to the light way before. And if so far,
and if their gameplay video that they're going to show off now can't be shown because
which doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm feeling like they just didn't have anything ready.
Somebody did die. Something died.
Yeah.
Life of the party. My appetite is ruined. And my day has been soiled.
Excellent.
Back to you.
All right, I'm ready to talk about my comic. How are you feeling?
Yeah, let's fucking talk about it.
Do you want to start? You want me to start?
No, you go ahead, start.
You always let me start because you want to get a gauge on what you're supposed to talk about.
Yes.
So, Sex Criminals was written by Matt Fraction with illustrations by Chip Zdarsky.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I found out today when I was looking through, I knew who Matt Fraction was as far as like in reference to other comics that he's written. Mm-hmm. He wrote Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon, which was a really strong influence on the Hawkeye series.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chip Zdarsky actually wrote and illustrated Spider-Man Life Story, which is I think I may have talked about it on the podcast as maybe one of my What You Thinking Abouts.
Could have been.
But it's basically like, what if all of the eras of Spider-Man comics happened in continuity of like, you know, here's Spider-Man in the 60s and then in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and like the art style changes to be like what it was in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and whatever stories were popular in the 60s and 70s 80s
is what his story
are what his story is. And so you get to see him like fighting Venom in space in the 2000s as an older man with Miles Morales with him helping him. And so, yeah, that's kind of an interesting story, but not the comic I'm talking about today. But I was like, oh, well, wait a goddamn. When I saw Chip Zdarsky, I was like, oh, he did the art for that. And I clicked on it. I was like, no, he wrote the thing. I was like, oh my God. But here's my plot synopsis. And this is actually just the synopsis off of I just did volume 1. So the first 5 books of Sex Criminals. So they say, Susie's just a regular gal with an irregular gift. When she has sex, she stops time. One day, she meets John, and it turns out he has the same ability. And sooner or later, they get around to using their gifts to do what we would all do. Rob a couple banks. A body and brazen sex comedy for comics begins here. And that's basically the long and short of it is they both can just stop time when they have sex and eventually go, you know, this could be useful.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's make some money.
Yeah. But the writing on it is really witty. Like I found myself, because I've read this before, but I was like just flipping through it again to refresh my memory. Like how's it start and things like that. And I found myself like giggling again. But the voices of both Susie and Jonathan, the two main characters, are like really distinct. So like when they're either having dialogue or they kind of trade off as narrators, you can kind of tell who's speaking.
Okay.
When you're reading it, you know, which I think is kind of a hard thing to do sometimes in writing, because especially in comics, because it doesn't say like says Susie, you know what I mean?
Right.
So unless you're either seeing that person speak or whatever, it's kind of not necessarily intuitive who's speaking, right? Honestly, the comic kind of has like a romantic spin to it, where there's kind of this buildup of Susie telling the reader all about like how she discovered her, we'll call it a gift. And like she kind of has like a little bit of a tragic backstory where her dad was shot at work, working at a bank where like the stock market had crashed or whatever, times were tight, and somebody came into the bank and shot dad. Right. And he was kind of just a random act of violence. Right. Her mom didn't do well with it and kind of withdrew and things like that. And Susie was like, well, I'm just going to go hide and she would lay in the bathtub and the faucet would be running. And one time she was laying in the bathtub and the water was just falling right. And she had her first, experience with an orgasm. And then
she just stopped time.
And time stopped. Yeah. And she was just young enough that she's like, I didn't know that this happened. Like she kind of had a grasp on like that masturbation might be a thing. You know what I mean?
Imagine a coming to age, right? But where like the first orgasm you had, you thought you stopped
time. Like, and like she says, so it honestly does a good job of like kind of lampooning like the way that both society and like school educate you on sex, where like she can't get a solid fucking answer on if this is normal or not, like she's going to the fucking library and flipping through books and it's like none of them mention stopping time, but none of them really describe like the sensations of an orgasm either, Right. So she's like, they really just kind of go, and then you have an orgasm, and she's like, what does this mean? And then, her specifically, a lot of the books like don't even mention female orgasm because it's not a part of reproduction. And so she's like, I don't even know what the fuck's going on. So then she's like, all right, well, I'm going to go talk to like she calls them the sluts, the dirty girls at school. Yeah. And they're still in middle school, and she's coming up and she's trying to like talk to them. And they're basically like, what's up, bitch? Slut, and like calling her names and stuff. And she's like, I don't. And then she just runs away. She panics. She can't do it. Call. So she's like, all right, I'm just going to do it again and see if it happens again. And it does. And she's like, oh my God, this is... Well, I guess this is just how it works.
This is fucking nuts.
And so then she goes back and was like, all right, I got to try this. She goes back to the dirty girls and calls them names again. She's trying to act like them, what's up, you sluts? Bitches. And she just keeps calling them, like, she just keeps calling them sluts, but keeps trying to think of new things to call them. And finally, one of them's like, kind of corners her and is like, let's go to the bathroom and smoke a cigarette real quick. And she's like, I don't want to do that. She's like, no, come on. And so she goes in there and she kind of locks her in the stall with her and is like, here, and gives her a cigarette and is like, you're asking her a lot of questions and I'm going to try and do you a service that nobody did me. Right. And kind of educate you a little bit. And it's like, this is the brunt of her sex ed, is this quote unquote slut at school that's like, let's smoke a cigarette. She's an 8th grader, you know. I was like, let's smoke a cigarette in the stall, and I'm gonna draw sex positions on this bathroom stall. And it's a really funny scene in the book where she's like listing off just increasingly unrealistic sex positions, you know, and just throwing out names for them. And Susie's like, just oh my god, she's like gobstopped and like just kind of hitting the cigarette, and she's like, I don't know if it was the sex positions or the cigarette, but my head started to hurt. And she at one point, they don't show, I mean, they show quite a bit of the sex position drawings, but at one point she's like listing them off and she says like something, and it's just Susie's face, and she goes, oh my god. You know, and it's like, oh my god, you know. And like one of them is just a guy putting his penis through the girl's hair, you know. And it's like, that's not a thing, you know.
Oh my god.
And yeah, just increase, like, this is what 8th graders think sex is, you know what I mean?
Putting it through hair,
you know, just coming up with all these things. And then there's like, it again dips into some serious stuff for Susie, of like when time stops, she starts calling it the quiet, you know, and that it's kind of nice, of like escapism, because she's still trying to deal with her dad's death.
Sure.
And her mom is pretty absent.
Now, how long does time stop for?
So it seems to vary. So we find out later, like with Jonathan, that for him, time stops and starts basically what's called the refractory period. So like in sex ed, the refractory period is the amount of time it takes from a man reaching orgasm until he is again ready to achieve orgasm. As long as he is unable to achieve an erection, time has stopped.
I don't know, man. Like,
and so, you're looking at like a minute tops, you know. No, but so
just slow down.
Yeah, but so and she's like going to her mom and is like, "Mom, I have some questions." And her mom's like, yeah, what about? You know, she's like, well, some like sex related questions. And her mom, who's at this point become an alcoholic, basically just goes, oh, great, so I'm raising a slut now. And she just kind of goes, that was strike 3, you know, like as far as the people that she's tried to talk to and get information from, which is when she turns to books. So she tried a teacher. Teacher was like, you can't talk to me about that. Yeah. Yeah, and tries the girls at school and gets taught to let the guy put his penis through her hair while she's smoking a cigarette. And then her mom basically slut shames her for having questions. Right. And so she's like, well, I'm going to go read books. And that sparks a love of books for her. And she reads a lot of books while she's in the quiet. So she's a very intelligent person and ends up taking that love of books into college. And she kind of eventually does have, obviously has sex with like her high school boyfriend, and he doesn't, like he's frozen as well. Yeah. And so that's like majorly disappointing for her, because she's kind of starting to gather from talking with people and like, I don't know, like watching porn and things like that, that this doesn't happen to people. This isn't normal, right?
This is not rig.
And so then she was pretty bummed out that like, I guess this thing that's supposed to be like a communal thing as far as like, you know, you and your partner having sex, when that happens, she's just alone, right? And so it's kind of like not a cool thing for her. And then she meets Jonathan at this party that she's throwing, because she at this point owns a library that is being foreclosed on by the bank. Womp. Like she says something to the effect of basically like, you know, the bank will take everything from you, trust me. You know, that's where her dad died, you know, and how the bank's taking her library from her. And so she's throwing a party where she's buying all these books and then trying to sell the books to turn a profit and hopefully save the library. And she meets Jonathan, who's funny and he's an aspiring actor, and he gets her humor and things like that, because she's kind of a sadistic person as far as her sense of humor. And they end up hitting it off really, really well and sleeping together. And she's like, oh man, yeah, that was nice. And he's like, you know, and then she's like, wait a minute. And they both freak out that the other one is still present, right? And so that starts their revelation that, like, my God, you are like me, you know? And so naturally they become bunny rabbits, right? Because this is the first time they've ever had
they're
that experience. This
all the time.
Yeah. And it's honestly, it turns into like a meet cute, of them like trading stories of how they discovered that they could do this and all that. And like Jonathan's experience is so much less like he calls, she calls it the quiet, right? He calls it cum world. And she's like, cum world, oh my God, and he's like, well, we can't all be poetic, okay? And
next stop,
yeah,
cum world.
And I love, I think I brought it up before when I've mentioned this comic book, but like he just uses it at work. He'll go to the bathroom and masturbate, and then when time stopped, he goes and just shits in his boss's plant in his office. And I love it. It's like a recurring thing where like they do a lot of panels where it's just him at work texting. And he's like texting Susie or whatever, and then puts his phone away, and then is like looks at his watch and is like he goes into the bathroom and then just goes and takes a shit. But like they dedicate panels to, well, it's that time again. I gotta take a shit, so he goes and jacks off, and then goes and takes a shit in his boss's plant, and it's like just this ritual of his of like that and sticking it to the man, And they're like I said, they're never gonna catch him,
No.
How would they know?
How?
Tell me. But turns out that John actually works for the bank that her father worked for, which is the same bank that is foreclosing on her library. Which is where eventually the plan comes together for them that like we should rob a bunch of banks, like small branches, and then work our way up to the branch that John works at. Because first of all, he fucking hates that place. It's the place her dad died. It's the place that's stealing her library from her, right? And there's like a financial aspect of it where John's like, as the economy crashes, the banks get bailed out. You know what I mean? He's like railing against the banking system, and it's like, they deserve this, right? And he's like, and it's a victimless crime. They won't even know. We'll just, And so there's some comedy of them trying to like strategize. Okay, how would we do this, right? And that they find out that they've got to be close to the bank because cars don't work in the quiet. So we've got to be like in the alley beside the bank, right? Or excuse us, and they go into the bathroom at the bank, right? And there's this tease that's going on throughout, like at the beginning of each book, of them actually robbing the bank, and it's kind of giving just a little snippet of them trying to rob the bank. And there's these people that are still moving, that are coming to like, come out with your hands up, right? And then they're like, what the fuck? Why are they, why are they here, right? How are they here with us? And come to find out, they're not alone. While they're planning the major heist on the last bank, because things are going well for them money wise, her roommate kind of like gets privy and is like, I think they're planning a bank robbery. So she calls the cops and kind of like reports it. Well, it turns out that the dispatcher is one of these, I don't know what you want to call them, like sex cops.
Sure.
Right. Who is like, really now, and they kind of look like losers. They're all dressed in like just sheet white clothes. Like one looks like a luchador. She's wearing like just a trench coat that's pitch white, and then the other guy just looks like he's wearing like an orderly outfit, but they're all in pitch white, and they've got like fleshlights that are tasers, and they're just oddly sex themed people, right?
Fleshlights that are tasers.
and when they get arrested by these people, John and Susie are like, what the fuck? Who are these people? I didn't know the cops like did this or whatever. And Susie like reaches in the heavy set guy's pocket that looks like the orderly, and is like, he's a fucking bus driver. Like, this isn't a cop.
Yeah.
Right. So these are just people who've taken it upon themselves to stop crime being committed by people that can do this.
Yeah.
When you're ready to go again, right? Time freezes for you or continues. Right.
Resumes.
And so while they're all in the quiet and, they're under arrest, Susie hits him with a vibrator and just in the side. And apparently it's enough of that's erotic, that they kind of get a little horny and then they freeze. And so they've discovered that as long as they're in the quiet and they get somebody else ready to go, right, they're frozen now. And so they're like, okay. And they're like trying to stage their escape.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of where the fifth book of the end of the first volume ends, is like, there's this concept now that like these people are being hunted.
You're just going to come right?
Yeah.
And then freeze time, and then you're gonna come up and start massaging balls and flicking beans, trying to get time to resume for them.
Yeah. And and so it's kind of a weird like, what I'm intrigued. I want more, right? Like I'm very curious to see where this is going.
Where is this going?
Because so far it was one thing. Now that you've added this wrinkle of like, volunteer sex cops, I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm here for it, And then I just wanted to talk about the art a little bit. So I really like the colors and shapes, honestly, because the quiet or cum world is very like almost ethereal, where there's like you can see color in the air like steam.
Sure.
And it's kind of everything's sparkly and glistening. It's sort of like, I guess, trying to visualize the euphoria, right? And then you're just kind of stuck there for a while, right? And it's an interesting way to just, I can tell when time has stopped because of the way the world looks, right? And I couldn't quite put my finger on what was so pleasant about just like even just the characters' looks and things like that. But I found out Chip Zdarsky drew Archie comics as well, and you know how the Archies are like kind of round and smooth. Yeah, there's not a lot of hard edges. That's kind of this style of drawing people. And I'm like, it's very pleasant on the eyes. It's nice and does feel somewhat whimsical. So kind of already is comical. It manages to be graphic without feeling pornographic, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Where like, you do see everything, right? Without seeing like penetration, right? You know what I mean? But you're never like, oh, really? You know what I mean? Or at least I was. And I'm sure like if a 13-year-old got a hold of this, he might be like, yo.
You give me this, dude. I'm like, yo.
I said a 13-year-old, It uses comedy in the drawings very effectively and kind of conveys the emotions of the characters very well, where like I can tell when John's telling a joke. You know what I mean? Where between both the writing and his gestures, you're like, oh, John's being funny.
Right.
Even when the characters' faces aren't in focus, they do a really good job of just kind of giving them life. And so I think, and then, reading some of the, there's like after book stuff where Chip and Matt have written notes about when they were writing the books and things like that. And just to read their writings after the fact feels very like, that's just their personalities. They're very funny people, it seems. And I think that comes through well. So I would definitely recommend this comic to any adults, emphasis on adults who are looking for a sweet and funny comedy that has quite a bit of graphic sex and nudity. It's a comic that manages to kind of thread the needle and avoid feeling lowbrow or sleazy, while also having tons of innuendo and dick jokes. So, if that sounds like it's up your alley and you are of adult age, check it out.
Get in it.
Yeah.
Get in it now. I definitely want to read it because it sounds really funny and really, really cool.
And it's different, it's not a superhero comic. It's not, it's just a...
It sounds
fun,
swanky.
Yeah, right? Very highbrow.
Very highbrow.
How cosmopolitan. What you got over there, kid?
So, I will be talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin.
Right.
Yeah. So, in this comic specifically, the synopsis, the plot to it is there has been a tragic accident that you don't really know what's going on, that you're trying to figure out.
Yeah, it's part of the mystery.
And there is only one turtle left, and we don't know who. And you try to, again, that's the whole thing, is like you come in and all you know is it's in the future. Something bad is going on with the Foot Clan.
Is it far future?
It's 100 years.
Okay, that's what I thought. It's kind of like cyberpunkish.
Yeah.
Okay.
So starting in, you see, this Ronin.
Yeah.
And
the turtle.
And so what happened is Shredder's grandson is picking up basically the family business.
Yeah.
He's the heir to the throne.
I smoked pot with Shredder's grandson.
I smoked pot. But his name is, I think it's pronounce it Hitoko. Hitoko. Hitoko.
Okay.
But so me and Hitoko are blazing it up.
Straight token.
Straight token. But so this Ronin, is on this bloodthirsty, vengeance adventure.
Yeah.
the thing is he's old.
Yeah.
Like, about 100 years. And he's just not...
Turtles live a long time.
Oh, yeah, they do. They do. But he's not doing well. But then, throughout this entire thing, he's talking about, like, loss and, not... And, like, this was a very depressing comic.
Yeah.
It was a very sad.
Yeah. It's like Old Man Logan, but for Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. And it's so weird. It's because I loved Ninja Turtles as a kid.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who doesn't? And so, like, seeing one of the turtles, like, on their hands and knees crying with all of their masks laid out with their weapons broken because they're dead, and that's just rubbish, but it's what he found.
Yeah.
And he's just saying, like, I miss you guys so much. And I'm just, like, reading this comic, and I played the Ghost of Tsushima soundtrack to try to get more in tune. Yeah. And so I'm just...
You have no honor. And you are a slave to it.
Dude, too fucking
That's
good.
Too good.
But, so then later, we find out that the turtle is Michelangelo.
Okay.
And we do find out it's Michelangelo.
Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. That's the whole point.
Jesus.
Read it. Only took 48 pages to find out. But we find out it's Mikey because he talks at the end. He's fighting all these foot soldiers that are... So essentially what his grandson's doing is he moved from...
Shredder's grandson.
Shredder's grandson moved from Japan to New York and broke New York up into three different districts. The bottoms, middle, and top. And obviously, the bottoms...
Slums.
Yeah, slums. You're working your way up.
Yeah.
And so...
he put a caste system in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he's having all these people, guarding the city, so he's just kind of controlling New York.
Mm-hmm.
And, so Mikey's like, that's a no. Like, we can't have that happen.
Pass. Yeah. It's a no for me, dog.
So he's trying to fight them all as he can, but, I mean, they all just have this cool armor that's made by, let me, hold on, find his name. I can't remember.
Elon Musk?
No, I think it was. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, Elon Musk, right there.
Hit the Musk himself, yeah.
I don't know where I saw it, but somebody said that Elon Musk is short for elongated muskrat. I think about that too often. Elongated muskrat.
I can't remember his name, but it started with an M, so we'll call him Markerberg.
Okay.
So Markerberg is basically this guy who's just really good with technology. Right in the future, he doesn't play too big of a role, except for he supplies the Foot Clan with tech suits.
Yeah.
So Foot Clan's fucking up Mikey, like hard. They're stabbing him in his arms and like fucking chopping at his legs. And so he's able to get the fuck out of there, and he goes back to the sewers.
Yeah.
And he tries to kill himself.
Oh, it worked.
But he loses too much blood and passes out before he can do it.
Jesus.
And then we're introduced to this character named Casey, not April's Casey.
Yeah.
But it's a woman.
Yeah.
And so he wakes up and to find out that April is there and saying like, welcome back.
April or Casey?
April.
Okay, April's still alive.
April is in fact still alive, and she is
old
very, very old and very cyborg. Not really. She's like
2/3 cyborg.
No, she's got like an arm and a leg that are like bionic. But she looks like she's probably like 60s, like 70s.
Okay.
Maybe around there. But then I'm not sure about the time because they mentioned
you said it was 100 years.
They say that Mikey, because they ask Mikey how old he is, and he's like 100 and something. Yeah. And I was like, well, they're 16.
Right, yeah, they're teenage
in there, so
Ninja Turtles.
It has to be 100 years. Yeah. So I don't know.
Who knows? Man.
It's a comic
not
book.
Important. Yeah.
But then from there, we kind of figure out what has happened.
Yeah.
And so when Hitoko first took over, he sent a message to Master Splinter saying, I want to end the war. Yeah. I want to end, this nonsense, bloodshed. Yeah. Let's just pull it together. Yeah. And all the Ninja Turtles were like,
pass.
Don't buy it. Don't buy this. And Splinter was like, no, let's
hear him out.
Let's hear him out. But we'll just, Donnie, you and me, we're going. And then Leonardo, Raph, and Mikey, you guys go and fight the Foot Ninjas down here that are still trying to take over.
Yeah, right.
They're like, all right. So Donnie and Splinter take a plane and they go. Mikey, Raph, and Leonardo, they all go to this. It's like just a factory somewhere.
Warehouse.
Right? Yeah, just a warehouse.
A classic factory fight.
And they're all fighting, and Casey and April's with them.
Yeah.
And they have Markerberg. This is when Markerberg is like introduced to the Foot Clan, and he has these robots called Mousers, and they just blow up. They can fly and blow up.
Yeah, they're giants.
Well, he had a bunch of them, and basically, Casey told Mikey to get April to like safety, and like he was like, don't worry, me and Leo got this. We're gonna slice and dice them. We'll fucking eat you back.
Slicing and dicing.
And it was kind of sad because like in that last frame shot, it's Casey and Leo talking. They're like, all right, after this, like, you're buying pizza.
Pizza's on me. Yeah.
And Leo was like, all right, but like, as long as we get, he said ham, pineapple, and jalapeno. And Casey's like, you're fucking gross.
Yeah, you're a pig. Yeah.
And then the next shot is like the explosion, and then just Casey's mask and Leo's sword just broken in half.
Jesus.
And it's just like,
oh no,
these are like,
they're dead. Yeah.
I watched this stuff like growing up. Like, what the fuck am I looking at?
But the comics have always been a bit more violent than like the movies were definitely toned down for kids.
But yeah, fucking Mikey trying to commit
suicide.
Was
seppuku?
it Sabuku?
No, seppuku
Or Sabuku.
Sudoku.
Dude, when Mikey was doing Sudoku, shit was gas.
He was cutting through that.
I'm really talking out my heart. But no, then we find out that the girl Casey that saved Mikey is actually April's daughter.
I was wondering, yeah.
But the thing is, there's a little bit of a twist. And so apparently due to April and Casey, not the daughter. Right. Casey 1 is, Casey 2 is the daughter. Yeah. Casey 1 and April, since they've been hanging around all the Turtles and Splinter so much, they've been getting a little radioactive mutanism in them, if you will.
Getting some turtle juice, you know?
No, I'm saying.
No, I mean.
But during all that, we kind of figure out what happened
she's just got 3 fingers.
And the claws.
Mikey, there's something I got to tell you. You have a daughter. She's just a normal looking person, except she's got turtle hands.
No. Straighten up because it gets sad.
Okay.
So we follow up to Donatello and Splinter. He fucking straighten up. Donatello and Splinter, they're in Japan, right? And they meet up with oh my gosh, what's Splinter's last name? His clan.
I don't know.
I can't remember. I'm fucking blanking on the name.
Rat
Clan. Again, like, it's just small things. It's like trying to help describe like the setting, I guess. Yeah.
They go to meet Splinter's clan.
Yeah. They're going to visit Splinter's clan, and he gets there, and they're like, "Oh fuck, what up, Splinter?"
Yeah, it's our boy,
skinny rat penis.
It's our boy, Rat Dick.
So young Rat Dick, they're walking. They're like trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, and like the whole clan's telling them like, yeah, this is a fucking trap.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust that guy as far as I can throw him.
And Splinter's like, no.
I know what I'm doing.
I got a good feeling.
Yeah, this one.
So they all go out, and
they're dead.
They meet a servant of the Foot Clan. The servant's like, we welcome you. We really want to add this bloodshed. And they're like, oh, cool. Where is Hitoko? Like, why ain't he here? And they're like, well, we're creating a feast, and he's trying to get everything in order, but he should be here soon. And they're like, word. And then the servant's like,
I feel sketch.
Yeah. And the servant's like, we strictly ask that you didn't bring weapons. Like, why did you have weapons? Yeah, weapons. And he goes, well, these are just precautions. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, as long as we both want the same thing. Yeah. And he kind of jumps back, and they're like, we're going to stay over here until they get here.
Right. Yeah. We're going to keep things super breezy.
And then Hitoko pulls up full suit of armor, like on a horse.
Yeah, he's ready to go to war,
and with like 1,000 archermen behind him.
Yeah.
And so Donnie looks at Splinter, and Splinter's literally just like,
gotta tell you, I saw this going differently.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta live with you. This one did not cross my mind.
Didn't see this one. This did not cross my mind at all.
This was not on the agenda.
Yeah, this is not in the cards.
And so,
might be, really waffled it on the leadership card there.
if someone's to blame, that's my fault.
I'll go ahead and take it.
That's my fault, Pimp.
I'll take the heat on this one.
So they're all fighting him, right? And then Splinter's clan pulls up behind him, so it's kind of like a war.
Yeah.
And Splinter and Donnie are fucking him up, and Splinter's ruthless, and he's just decapitating people.
Yeah,
like left and right.
Like just chopping wood.
And then he tells Hitoko, fight me with honor. And so Hitoko's like, oh, this motherfucker, and starts getting off his horse.
You rat bastard.
And the damn rat started running and threw his sword at him and just lands him right in the fucking chest. And he like falls back. And then like, his
like the damn rat.
The damn rat. Yeah. Running on all fours, catching speed.
Yeah. He's zipping.
The Hitoko's teammates were like, "Oh, you okay?" And he's like, "Get the fuck off me! Get the fuck off me!
Give me some room."
And but then he's like, "All right, I'm gonna get off this horse. I'm gonna fucking run over there. And when I say fire, you tell all those archers to fire."
Yeah.
And they're like, "All right, bet."
All right. Yeah.
And so they're running over there and doing like the real dramatic duel.
Yeah.
And it just turns out he basically pushes Splinter back, and then starts firing the first wave of arrows.
Yeah.
And as soon as that first wave comes in, Donnie gets in the way and like takes all those hits.
Yeah.
And you just see and he died pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like he jumped in front of him, you see all those arrows in him, and then like in the next cutout, he's just on the floor.
Damn.
And it's just like
he didn't get dying words.
No,
or anything.
he's just dead. He saved his dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then Splinter, and then like he just looks at him and goes, "You were a fucking fool to believe me." Second row, arrows done. And I was like, dude, these are like, you would figure these would be like badass, epic fights, and it's just a fucking bloodbath.
Yeah, it's a slaughter.
So fast forward to now.
Yeah.
Okay. So present day, we have Mikey, Casey2, and April.
And Raph die?
Raph died with Leo.
Okay.
Yeah, he was with them, but you didn't see any of his stuff. They didn't
make much of a deal about him.
Just his sai.
Yeah.
But I will say, starting off in the comic, they did a really good job of making sure you don't know who it is.
Yeah.
Because starting off, he is very all over the place when it comes to his emotions right now, which understandably so. He lost all of his family.
Yeah.
But like he learned, the one thing that Splinter did leave back that the clan was able to retrieve during that battlefield is Splinter's book of all of his teachings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he like read that book, like mastered all martial arts, like memorized Raphael, Donatello, and Leonardo's all of their fighting skills and all their fighting stances. So he's all of beast.
Yeah.
But he's not funny anymore. Yeah. Like he's just got that 1,000-yard stare, and he's waiting to die. Yeah. And so fast forward to then to now, Casey2 is starting to realize like I'm not normal. And Mikey's realizing that. And Mikey comes up to April and is like,
"That bitch only has 3 fingers.
Like, baby, listen, what's up with the fingers?"
You're making me nervous.
No, but she was like, so she's explaining everything, saying like, I think since we were hanging around you so much, you
guys are putting off vibes.
Yeah, and so she is fine. She's just a normal girl, except for she has a little bit of enhanced strength and healing, which I was like, how fucking convenient.
Right, yeah, as you do.
As you do. Fucking, I'm hanging around turtles and I get fucking
made fun of. That's all I
get made fun of, and salmonella.
I spend all my time hanging out in the sewers with turtles and eating pizza, and all I get is fucking dysentery.
Trench foot.
Yeah. Eating pizza, drinking gray water, Anyway.
But so Casey2 is like, Mikey, you should train me. And Mikey's like, no.
I want to learn.
And she's like, pretty please. And he's like, all right.
Twist my arm.
Yeah. And so April has formed this resistance, essentially. And so the whole plan is they're going to try to go out and stop, the Foot Clan. Yeah. And they try once, really without a plan, and they're like, "Oh, let's just fucking do this. Let's go in, roll ninja sneaky like." And like Mikey does make the joke. He's like, "Come on, let's just be sneaky like ninjas, in and out."
Yeah, they fail.
Yeah, they fail real hard. But then they try again, and they get more of like the resistance to come in, and it turns into this big beautiful war. As
This big, beautiful war.
But, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's it's horrifyingly beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? Because you see everything, and, like, all of these people are just, people in suits through Markerberg.
Yeah,
right. You know, so they're just, they're not really anything. Yeah. They're just robots.
Yeah, they're decked out.
But then you got these people who, like, with heart, who want the city back, and, you know, they're fighting with reason. So it's really pretty to see that. And then Mikey's like, all right, you guys are doing that. I gotta go fight Splinter. Yeah. Or Shredder. Yeah. And so he goes up there, and they're all talking, and he's like, all right.
Shredder the Third.
Shredded. Shredding.
Shreddy.
But so.
Shreddy Van Halen.
Slash.
Yeah. Focus.
So they're talking, and basically, Shredder's like, check this shit out. I got nanotech. Yeah. Just it's swallowed.
Do it to him, you know.
So they're fighting back and forth for a while,
him, you know.
And he's trying to find, because Mikey's getting his shit pushed in. Yeah. Like, he gets, like, stabbed in the side. Yeah. And, like, he gets slashed through the gut. And, like, he's breaking a shell and shit like that.
Jesus.
And then at the end, he's trying to find, like, a weak point in his armor. Yeah. And he's able to, like, once they fell down off a building, and as soon as they fell, he saw that, like, his armor was regenerating. Yeah. So he's like, well, maybe if I hit him hard enough, so while his armor's trying to regenerate, I'll strike him with a sword. And he does that a couple times, and he's getting him to bleed. Yeah. But the suit's, going right over, and it's it's stopping the blood loss.
Right, yeah, it's putting pressure on it, yeah.
So there's not a whole lot you can do.
So to his face.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, they fell off the building. Mikey's like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I'm bleeding out.
Yeah, I gotta make like a tree and get out of here.
Naturally, he jumps into the sewer. Yeah. And April's fucking around with, like, all the hoses and the stuff underneath to try to get, like, a big wave to go through. Uh-huh. And, so they're fighting in there, and then that big wave comes through, and they break through this glass, and they land in this mud pit. And there's a really powerful scene where Shredder's talking to Mikey, and he's telling him, he's like, you fucking did all this, all the way out here just to fucking die in the mud, you nasty monster. Yeah. And Mikey's like, don't you call me a nasty monster,
you son of a bitch. Yeah.
I'm gonna beat you up.
I'll show you a nasty monster.
Yeah, shows him a nasty monster, and basically beats him with Donatello's staff, stabs him with the sword and the sai, and
using all the weapons. Yeah.
But then he ends up, I think, just drowning in the mud. He beats him to a pulp where he can't move, and then just flips him face forward, and then
just Shredder.
Mm-hmm. And he tries to swim
drowning,
and then he just sinks in, and I'm like, oh. And then Casey 2 comes in, right, because she's like trying to find him and come after him and everything, and he gives her the book, and at the end of the very last page, it says "No peace" was written in there, and everyone's like, "Why? Why does it say no peace?" I thought the whole thing was about finding peace, and he says, "Well, the thing about finding peace is it's not real." Mikey's convinced. Yeah. But at the end, he changes it and puts a KNOW and gives it to Casey 2 and goes, "Yeah, your training's done. Yeah, read this, do this. No peace." Yeah. And then the comic ends with New York being restored, everything kind of going back to normal. Yeah. And then Casey 2 coming home to April, and she's like, what's for dinner? And she goes, have whatever you want. I'm not that hungry.
Pizza.
And she walks over, and there's a dome with 4 turtles in it. And she's like, God, I can't wait for you guys to get older. I got so much to teach you. Yeah. And I was like, oh, they are reborn. Yes. But I was very sad because Mikey dies. Yeah. Mikey ended up dying. Yeah. And so I was like, they were all
dead.
The only one that got like a cool death is Mikey. Yeah. Like the other ones were really just blown to bits.
Pretty unceremonious, yeah.
And I think that's why it was really sad. And I apologize for like how choppy or like back and forth it is, but it's just a brutal, like, this is just kind of what happens, and the story just marches. Yeah, it doesn't stop.
Moving on. Yeah.
Which I really liked about it too. Yeah.
It doesn't dwell on it.
But that took a while, sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're so good, baby.
Beautiful. But
what you been thinking about?
I think what you meant to say is, welcome back to Chris's Cryptid Corner. I'm your host, Chris. My screen's bright.
Yeah, I just saw your face is whoa.
So this one, instead of having one, I have multiple short stories that I've collected from various websites that are just spooky.
Yeah.
I like when I read scary stories, especially in the dark. It makes it spooky. And some of the ones that I have are...
You can make my feet like curl up where I'm like, there's something under the table.
A little bit, especially this first one.
None of them got sounds or pictures.
But honestly, I don't think you need them. So this first one called Mommy's Home. Suckling on the teat. A father is lying in bed after just waking up. Oh, I thought my tablet. It just turned. I was like, no way.
Say psych.
So a father is lying in bed after just waking up. He grabs the baby monitor and walks to the desk in his office at home. He has his baby on the baby monitor and hears his wife singing to her. He cracks a smile as he hears his wife saying, go to sleep, in a nice melody. Suddenly, from the front door opens, his wife comes in with the groceries.
Yeah.
I don't know, this is like a short one, and I got a couple one here, but that one made me think of, what's that one? It's not paranormal, but it's about the movie about the two people breaking in, and they like kill the homeowners just because they were there. They were home. They were like robbing them or something.
Oh, the strangers?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it made me think of at first. Is like, what if it was like that?
But did you get that from like 2-sentence horror stories on Reddit?
No.
Because that's a pretty decent subreddit. If you sort that by best of, there's some good creepies on there.
I'll definitely check that out then. Another one I have is what's in the basement. Basements give me the willies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially like they're unfinished.
Oh yeah.
Oof.
Dude. Barbarian? Stop playing. Yeah.
Mama! Yeah.
Gave you chills, didn't I? I saw you.
I'd be lying if I said that didn't, bro. Give me goosebumps down the back. Mama. What's in the basement? Mother told me never go in the basement, but I wanted to see what was making the noise. It kind of sounded like a puppy, and I wanted to see the puppy. So I opened up the basement door, and I tiptoed down a bit, and I didn't see a puppy. And then Mommy yanked me out of the basement and yelled at me. Mommy had never yelled at me before, and it made me sad, and I cried. This just sounds like a... That's it. No. Then, Mommy told me never go in the basement again. She gave me a cookie.
There you go.
That made me feel better, so I didn't ask her why the boy in the basement was making noises like a puppy, or why he didn't have any hands or feet.
Oh my god. What the fuck?
Dude, these are fucked up.
That wasn't even scary, it was just fucked up.
All I saw was red, and we'll stop it on 3. Do you know this one?
I think I do. Does a guy go to the hotel? Is it that one? Can I tell it?
Be cautious of car crashes. That's going to be the one I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
But then, yes, I'll let you tell it. But don't get too comfortable. This is my corner.
No, I know.
Pretending to be asleep doesn't work.
All right, so this is all I saw was red.
Mm-hmm.
I check into a small hotel a few kilometers from Kyiv. It is late. I'm tired. I tell the woman at the desk I want a room. She tells me the room number and gives me the key. But one more thing. There's one room without a number and always locked. Don't even peek in there, right? So I take the key and I go to my room to sleep. In the middle of the night, I hear a trickling of water, and it's coming from the room across the hall. I can't sleep, so I open my door, and it is coming from that room with no number. I pound on the door. There's no response. I look in the keyhole, and I see nothing except red. And I can still hear that water trickling. So I go down to the front desk to complain. Hey, there's somebody in that room leaving the water running. And she looks at me and is like, the room without the number? Oh, yeah, there's just somebody in there, with their water running on. And she looks at me and she begins to tell me a story. There was a woman that was murdered in there by her husband long, long, long ago. And her skin was all white except for her eyes, which were red. Bum, bum, bum.
Bwah, bwah, bwah.
Yeah.
Colin?
Yeah.
What have you been thinking about?
I'm playing the shit out of the Dead Space remake.
Yeah. I was watching you play it for a little bit. It's spooky shit.
Yeah, so it's done a really good job of so I don't remember the original well enough to know major differences.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding from what I've read so far is that there really aren't major differences story-wise, except apparently the ending is pretty different. But honestly, story-wise, I remember the second game more than the first game, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. But I mean, I haven't heard negative things about the changes, so that's good. But I do remember it enough to tell you like the parts that are the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, for instance, I walked into a room that I like distinctly remembered. Oh my god, there is a horrifying jump scare in here. Like I don't remember where from but I know that this room scared me. And so then I kind of honestly built up my own like anxiety, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So then when it happened, I was like, it's like, that was what I was expecting. Yeah. You know,
motherfucker,
son of a bitch. But graphically, beautiful.
Yeah.
I think the appeal, like the visual appeal of Dead Space being like the lack of a HUD is like perfect for something of this like high visual fidelity, where like now that it's built for PS5, 4K, right? Having no HUD and that all of your like health and ammo and all that is just built into like the holograms that his suit projects and things like that. It really is immersive of like Isaac Clarke is just doing his best, right? He's just trying to get through this. And like there's nothing that beats the anxiety of going into like the vacuum of space segments. You kind of watched some of that, didn't you? Where like you cross into it and like I've gotten further on from when you saw, and so they're really kind of stretching out how long you're in the vacuum. And like you can find oxygen canisters that you can refill your O2 with, or you can find like stations on the wall to refill your O2, right? But like there was one section where I had to cross like a chasm inside the ship, like the engine rooms, to do some maintenance, and you have to like ride a service like lift of sorts, or like a tram kind of across this chasm
monorail
of sorts, right? But you're in the vacuum while you're doing it, and so you're sitting there on this tram, like at the mercy of how long it takes this tram to move, as your timer's just on your back. And the detail that they added is like, and I'm pretty sure it was that way in the original game as well, is like you can hear Isaac getting panicked and short of breath as his O2's running out. So he's like, and you're like, and you get to the O2 and it's like, and he goes, and then you're like, you turn around and there's just, but they do a really good job in the vacuum too of like, there is no sound outside of his suit, it's like you can kind of hear his footsteps, but only through like radiating in his suit,
right? So
you hear like the vague muffled like boom, boom, boom. And so there can be enemies
and you just can't,
and you don't know that they're there, right, from audio, and you're starting to get attacked and shit, and you're like you've basically lost one of your senses, and it's nerve-wracking trying to balance like, all right, I gotta manage my ammunition. And that's one of the things that it does the best, I think, is using so it intentionally makes its enemies bullet sponges, insofar as the very first weapon you pick up is the plasma cutter, and it's basically a pistol that shoots a maybe 1 foot wide beam of laser, right, of plasma that cuts things, hence the name plasma cutter. And when you pick it up, there's like smeared blood on the wall that just says cut off the limbs. And you're like, okay, all right. And you quickly gather through combat and through like the people that you arrive on the ship with telling you like, these things won't go down, right? If you chop off their limbs, shoot off their arms, shoot off their legs, that's how you kill them quickly, honestly. If you can take off a leg and then an arm, they die. Yeah. Problem being, these things are fast. At times.
You gotta be able to take that leg and arm off. Yeah,
and it's hard to not panic and just and it does a good job of making you go, oh dude, I've got so much ammo, I'm flush with ammo. And then throwing 4 or 5 enemies at you, you panic and you just do an ammo dump, and then you're like, I have no ammo left, and I don't know when I'm gonna get more. Right. And so it really leans into that survival horror, and I remember that from the first game. They really didn't mess with just the real, like, the soul of the game being like, you're stuck on this spaceship with these freaks and you don't have a lot of ammo, and you've got to keep your head on, figuratively and literally, right? But it's so good, and I really love the even just the aesthetics of it, of being like this dark, grungy, very industrial spaceship. It's a mining rig. Yeah. So it's not like, this beautiful,
Science
sleek
experiment.
and shiny, it's like it's a place where miners work.
Yeah.
Right. And it is scary. And I'm really glad that like it feels good as like a survival horror game. It feels like a game that is as old as it is, as far as like, man, this is a game from a bygone era, right?
Yeah.
This is a game from the early 2000s, late 90s, right? But it really works as a modern game too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it does honestly do a good job of being a new or an old game that's been remade, feeling like a modern game as far as like, man, it looks good,
Controls,
it feels
maneuverability.
it controls well, but then just at its soul being like, this isn't something that they make a lot of. And when they do, it doesn't always turn out good. And so I think so far
it's nice to have that win for that.
Yeah. But that was my little review of Dead Space. It does make me, I've seen a lot of people saying like, would you play a Dead Space 2 remake? And I'm like, yes. So Dead Space 2 is a little bit more actiony, but still balances. I compare it to like Aliens to Alien.
Okay.
Or like Terminator 2 to Terminator, of like, we're going to make the sequel the same, but more action.
But more.
Right? And then Dead Space 3, I didn't like as much because they did co-op, but then they really cranked it up to just be like an over-the-top action. And so it really kind of cheapened a lot of the horror in it. But I would honestly be cool with Motive, which is the EA studio that redid this.
Yeah.
Take a crack at a new trilogy. And then I've seen a lot of people saying, well, if they change the ending of this enough, maybe they could just kind of do like a reimagining, honestly, of like if taking that ending and going into what 2 would be from that different ending. And I'd be cool with that. And I'd like to see them try and make co-op work. I mean, we said before, co-op horror can work.
That is the thing, is it can work. But it's hard to do.
Yeah, it's
a
balancing act.
But yeah, you gotta be good
Something
at it.
that Dead Space 3 did that I think is a decent idea is it played with showing things to one of the players but not the other, so that like we might walk into a room and because without getting into spoilers for Dead Space, this 15-year-old game, there's a monolith that like messes with your mind, and can make you hallucinate and stuff. So you can come into a room and one of the players is seeing a baby on the floor and one of them is just seeing a crate, and like that baby starts crying and there's music playing for one of the characters but not the other. Right. And so you're like, oh my God, what is that? And you're like, what do you fucking mean? What I mean?
It's a box.
And so that's an interesting thing that I don't know that they necessarily pulled off well, but I think if you gave somebody that's a little bit more skilled at the scary, and I would like to see them take a crack at that. Because you even asked me, like, is this multiplayer?
Yeah,
I'm like, no.
It looks cool.
Again, we want to thank you guys so much for your attention and support. If you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a great review, like, favorite, follow, whatever the phrasing is, subscribe to us. Word of mouth, obviously, is a great review for us, or great help. So share us on social media.
That's right.
We do have our Facebook group up, right?
That's right, we do.
Yeah, how would they get in touch with us?
You can always reach out to us. You can take a look at our YouTube, Instagram, Facebook at Simply Whelmed a Podcast. You can always take a look at us at our Twitter handles, Whelmed_simply. And if you wanted to send us any spooky stories, you wanted to talk about our praise and our truth of the gospel, you can definitely send us an email at simplywhelmedmailbag@gmail.com.
Yeah, and I do have an email for us here.
Let's read it.
So this is written to us from Ghosty. And they say, hiya, Chris and Colin. After being introduced to your podcast a few months ago, I've been using my work time, where we're allowed to listen to music and such, to get caught up. I finally made it. Though I've been tempted to write in a few times, the subject line would have been related to old episodes. You may not have remembered the context, so I held off. Anywho, down in Whoville, I absolutely love the dynamic between you two, and I love hearing what you have to talk about every week. I look forward to the news segment as well, because being a single mom, it's hard to keep up with the latest in pop culture, which is unfortunately the bread and butter that makes me, me. They go on to say, outside of praising you two, I wanted to offer Chris a recommendation for a cryptid, and thought it might be more of an urban legend surrounding the small town I'm from. The Werewolf of London, Ohio is a fascinating story, they say. At the very least, it's fun to read about. Also, I can relate to Chris's fear of death, and you guys talking about immortality in a previous episode made me think of a good book series you might be interested in called Scythe.
Book? I have to read?
Are there pictures in this book? No. I do like me an audiobook, so
no, I could get down with it.
It's about a society where we evolve to the point we don't die, and they elect a group of people essentially to kill at random.
See, like it all good. Like people are still dying. Like I can't. That could be me. I could be selected at random to die. That's not cash money.
All that to say, I love you guys, and I think you're doing an amazing job. I look forward to more episodes, and I hope you guys follow through with doing one on creepypasta. I remember a few weeks back we talked about that.
Yeah.
Quite a few years ago, one of my friend's little brothers introduced me to Ben Drowned, which opened up a whole new world of scary stories. Don't worry, Colin, Squidward suicide stuck with me too. A follower of the Church of Whelmed Ghosty.
A follower. So
That's
we
one of
do,
them,
in fact, have a following.
We've got a flock starting.
We are not a cult.
No,
We need to make
we're a
that
church.
abundantly
They said it right
clear.
here, church.
Yeah, exactly.
Follower of the Church of Simply Whelmed. It says right there.
Can we
Church of
actually,
Whelmed.
like, I want to, let's make our estate a church. Deem
We
it
have
to
to have,
be.
I think we have, by like IRS law, to be tax exempt, we have to be like 10 people.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we can get...
Dude, we could do that. We could do
If
that
we-
so easy.
All right, we got to do well enough that we hire 10 people, right?
Okay.
And then 10 people reside inside a building or work inside a building. And we worship, right?
Dude, we worship us.
Stephen, or what? John Oliver, the Last Week Tonight, they went through the legal process and made themselves tax exempt as a church just to prove how flimsy that tax loophole was. And like they did it.
Yeah.
Like they successfully did it and are a tax exempt church.
Why can't we do it?
That's right. Why can't we be friends? So,
Let's make that happen.
let's do it. That's our stretch goal. So I saw a meme that made me think of you, and then that email helped refresh me. And I say a meme, it was just a thing on the internet.
Okay.
Name your 8 great grandparents, right? So, you know, your grandpa's mom and dad, right? Can you name any of them?
By name?
Do you know any of your great grandparents' names?
No.
That's how close you are to being forgotten.
Ooh, I don't like that. Stop. I don't like that. Then again, I haven't met a lot of my family.
Right. Which I think is why I enjoy doing the genealogy.
That's still sitting heavy on me. Like, how are you gonna drop? Like, I tell you, I have a fear of death, and like, you're just gonna fucking drop that on me 10 minutes later.
You're all right, bub. Let it settle. Next week, I think we got to go see Knock at the Cabin. That comes out this Friday.
Yeah.
And then I do still want to talk about, see and talk about Megan.
I'd just like to see the menu. I think that's something I'm probably just gonna try to watch by myself. I know we try to watch it together, but our schedules have been so fucked lately, and I know coming up here soon we have holiday hours for Valentine's Day. So,
but that's the end of the show, Chris. Tell everybody bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.